I think we heard what it means for this current government, and clearly it'll be contested, Alastair, what we mean by how we close these inequalities, how far we're going to go, how far we're going to push. George Osborne, when he was Chancellor, was very clear what it meant for the north of England, that we would close the gap with the south over a number of decades, that would be based on higher productivity. And I think that the challenge with levelling up is that it's seeking to be many things to many people. So clearly there are those who want to talk about local pride and putting a sense of community back into places. And that is part of Neil O'Brien's narrative that he presented. I think he was responsible for the 4 tests. And we remember Gordon Brown's €5 test, which didn't go so well. So hopefully Neil's test will work out better than some of those previous lists that governments have come up with for different policy areas. But I think my reflection would be that Michael Gove and Neil have got a much clearer handle on what it is they want to do. Now, whether or not that measures up to what northern leaders, the civic leaders in the north, at the time, or Labour now not, you've got the Conservative mayor of Tees Valley, so this is a cross-party of politicians. How Ben Houch and Andy Burnham, Tracy Brabin define levelling up is going to be very different. And so that is a contested space, Alastair. The government might be making an offer, and communities, I'm sure, will be grateful for that. But will that offer be based enough on decentralisation from Whitehall? And I think Neil O'Brien is definitely a decentraliser. Whether the rest of the cabinet really understand that what this needs to mean is existing funds that are spent by Whitehall departments being given to directly elected mayors, that we need to create more mayors. That's exactly what the Prime Minister wants. But I think some of the cabinet were going around saying this is levelling up, that's levelling up. And to be honest, some of it was just things that government should do anyway. And I think the danger is that lots of Whitehall departments try to justify their own existence, because the reality of this is that lots of bits of Whitehall won't really be needed if we do this right. If you decentralise power to places, you really just need the Treasury and the Metro mayors in many cases. You don't need certainly very large departments at the centre. And that's how you reduce the cost of government. And you think, again, Conservative government would want to reduce the cost of Whitehall and the bureaucracy at the centre, because it'll be a lot cheaper.
Absolutely. And as you pointed out quite rightly, your first dancing partner was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne, not the former Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and now Secretary of State for the Cabinet Office, Michael Gove. And that takes me to my second question, which is, I completely understand it and buy into it, where there is a need for infrastructure to help meet demand, shift labour around, shift goods around, and the Northern Powerhouse is a screaming example of it. If you get that wrong, you end up with bridges over the Humber that you don't really need, bits of motorway that are utterly redundant, which is just pork barrel politics. And I'm not remotely convinced that government's up to making those decisions.
I agree, Alastair, and it's partly why you need to take that policy-making initiation function out of Whitehall and move it to places, because the north of England does have a transport plan. It includes the need for Northern Powerhouse Rail across the Pennines, but it also specifies exactly what transport connections we actually need. And it starts to rationalise that we probably won't be able to have all the roads that everybody wants, because there isn't the money for that. And that in the north, we've particularly got very poor railways, despite the great job the Victorians did, no one's really improved them since the last 100 years. I mean, apart from the occasional odd upgrade or new stretch of short line here or there, certainly there's been no new east-west links built for a very long time. So building that new east-west railway is our biggest priority. And it does mean, I think, the North's got to find ways to pay for that. So I'm quite open to getting rid of road tax and fuel duty, but replacing it with road charging. It's something a lot of Conservative MPs that the Northern Research Group have advocated here in the North, because I really want to get away from the idea that the North can sort of have everything it wants and Whitehall will just pay for it. Because actually what we need to be doing more and more is thinking, can we raise the money ourselves for some of these projects and put our own destiny in our own hands? Because like we're seeing with HS2, governments make you promises and then they go back on them.